Welcome to the show, everyone. We've got quantum technologies and UFOs. We're talking with Thunder, who is a expert in those fields, and they're a couple of my favorite subjects: quantum physics and ufology. Thunder, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks again, Marty. Always a pleasure here to talk.
I love talking to brilliant minds.
Thank you. I guess, when it comes to ufology, I consider myself very fluent. Of course, when I was a kid, one of my favorite shows I remember watching with my father was Project Blue Book. It came out, and then, of course, there was another show with Leonard Nimoy called In Search Of. So these were things that I guess early on, sitting out, they fascinated me. But when it comes to, ufology, there's the giant white elephant sitting in the middle of the room that a lot of people, aren't familiar with. But when it comes to really dissecting and looking at the proof, the Edward Billy Meyer case out of Switzerland is the granddaddy of UFO stories. It now is over 50 years of communication with Billy and different ships, and of course I can't forget my favorite show in the 90s, The X-Files. My gosh, that was a wonderful show.
Right.
And in Mulder's office, there was the I Believe poster that was hanging. That was one of the many 1976 made with 8mm Polaroids that Billy would use to take photographs. And the best in Hollywood that I've worked with out there, I taught liquid animation motion physics at the Video Gaming Academy, and have worked with a lot of and met with a lot of special effects artists. They all agree there's really no way to pull off what Billy did in 1976 using, he's a one-armed farmer, for gosh sakes. Be able to Photoshop or to hoax the photographs that Billy produced.
So tell us about that incident. I don't recall it. I watch Ancient Aliens, a lot, and a lot of documentaries, but I don't recall the Billy Meyer story. Tell us about it.
Well, the Billy Meyer story, started way back. I think in India, he would be traveling around, and that's when kind of the first story was broke, was printed up, and it talks about a lot of people refer to as the Pleiades. Billy refers to them as the Plagiarin. And cases of the Billy Meyer, if you search just Billy Meyer photos, you'll see just the clearest UFO ships that have ever been done. There's a gentleman who wrote a book called They Fly. It was written by Guido Moosberger. And Guido Moosberger was a German principal of a high school for years, and then he retired, and he moved him and his family to the Billy Meyer compound in Switzerland. Spent many years with Billy, as a lot of people do. Billy's got quite a almost a cult type following of people over there, and it was under Billy's suggestion that Guido would do the North American tour, which consisted of LA, Las Vegas, and New York. I was actually asked by a group out of Los Angeles called the FIGU, F-I-G-U group, if I would put up Guido for a few days in my house in Las Vegas and make sure that he made it to and from the, I think it was done at the Ramada on Sahara, to make sure that he got a English translator. He just simply doesn't speak English. He's German, and to show the 1,500 photograph slideshow presentation that afternoon. It's just absolutely amazing. I'm one of the few in the world that have got to see all of those photographs. Along the way, I got to meet many of the people who have stayed with Billy over the years for long term. And the U.S., he's in your neighborhood, Monty. I think Culver City, I believe.
Really?
His name is Michael Horn, and he's been the official spokesperson for the Billy Meyer case. He speaks at many of the different lectures around the world. Billy's not only photographic evidence is overwhelming, there's audio recordings. And the unique thing about some of these audio recordings is they are 25 and 35 octaves below and above what our current synthesizers even can produce. They have been analyzed, different metals that have been fused together. JPL has analyzed some of this stuff, and some of it has come up missing in the middle of laboratory examinations. But the audio recording, like I said, are just you cannot replicate that. We do not have that equipment anywhere on the planet. I have biophoton analyzed these images to be authentic. Also, I've spent time with Mr. Travis Walton. If you've ever seen the movie Fire in the Sky,
yeah.
That was the Hollywood version. Since I got to spend time with Travis and his brother-in-law, I got kind of the other side of the story, which isn't the Hollywood version. But Travis didn't sign up for any of this,
right?
And a lot like Billy, these are wholesome, genuine people who are not like myself, not particularly fond of the limelight. They're not doing this for attention. They're not doing this for money. They just simply want to share their experiences. What has happened over the years. My intellectual idol, Dr. Fred Bell. Mr. Bell was the one that died during the Jesse Ventura conspiracy theories show. Fred took many photographs as well. He was kind of the North American version of Billy Meyer. And again, like I said, my intellectual idol completely. He spent time with Samaji. Samaji was the same being that Billy spent time with. So there is a similarity between the two with Samaji. Some pronounce her name Semaji. I'm not really actually sure how to pronounce it. I did get to view the over 15,000 pages of text in German that FeedU is working and has been working over the years to convert into English. And it is, you know, it's a remarkable pile of predictions that Billy was shared. They were shown to Billy, and if you look at his accuracy in predictions over the last 40 years, they're on point, remarkably on point. It's just like I said, it's a giant white elephant that a lot of people are simply not familiar with. A major case.
Well, I think they bury their heads in the sand. You know, they have to go about their 8 to 5, so they really don't have, you know, they structure it to where we don't have time to pay attention to things like this. You know, there was 30,000, the Phoenix Lights, 30,000 people saw this quarter-mile wide UFO float over the city. There's pictures of in Washington in '52 when there was a squadron of UFOs flew around the Capitol. You know, I watch a lot of documentaries, and there's a lot of photographic evidence, a lot of NASA photos, a lot of NASA recordings of them talking about, you know, what they're seeing up there, and that they edit it out so we don't see it. But Freedom of Discovery Act has opened up all these documents, all these recordings for us to check out. Russia's embracing UFOs now. They're not hiding it at all.
There are some great documentaries out there, and you know, the great thing about the YouTube channels today, you got what is it, Sector 50 or something like that, third phase of the moon.
Yeah.
These are some neat channels that are you know, big time channels getting lots of views because it's a worldwide interest in folks that I've seen. My personally, I've had quite the experiences because mainly I spend a lot of time just looking up at the sky. You know, that's where it begins. My real first experience, it was in Minneapolis around 94, and I was looking over at the airport where it appeared to be an airplane taking off, but it went up and then stopped and then went back the same direction that airplanes don't do that. And about 2-3 days later, I walked out at night, and I happened to look up, and I got to see what everyone in the world is boasting: the small black silent triangles, some 300 yards above my head, fly by. Went to Las Vegas, Lake Mead, saw a couple more black triangles flying out in the air at night. And then a few days after that, I was looking east toward Eastern Mountain at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I look in the sky and I see a black parallelogram. Now that's bizarre. That's all I can think. And then as I'm staring at this thing, it divides into 2 separate triangles, starts doing this whirlwind tornado pattern, and then each of those triangles fly in different directions. And I'm like, wow, that was cool.
Yeah.
About 10 minutes later, I'm seeing from the west of Las Vegas, which would be where Area 51 would be located, about 10-15 minutes later, here's a double-bladed helicopter just hauling ass across the Vegas Valley in the direction where one of those things had split. And I remember walking into work, and I'm like, guys, I just saw something bizarre, and this big, huge. I never saw a black helicopter that big before take off in that direction. And of course, the guys in work are kind of laughing at me, and I'm staring out the window here. About an hour later, I go, hey, Remember I said you it went that direction? Look out the window. And the black helicopter was returning. Carrying something underneath it. And I'm like, boy, they're just doing this in the open, aren't they? Very bizarre. Let's see, I go out to Orange County, California one evening, and this was witness, oh my, there was about 10 of us there sitting in the driveway, and well, we were at a party, and I happened to look up, and I go, hey everyone, come out of the garage here, check this out. And above us about 250 feet was, it appeared to be a fireball, like almost in the clouds, because it was a cloudy night. But it would look like a fireball that was just rolling around above us, no sound whatsoever, and then phew, shoots out over the Pacific toward Catalina Island. All of these sightings pale in comparison to when I was in Sedona, Arizona. And here's my scientific explanation of why, and let's see, Phoenix Lights, that was March 13th, 1997. I remember it well. I was listening to Coast to Coast AM, and that night my very good friend Sean David Morton was predicting that very event would happen just a month beforehand. And sure as heck, we see a lot of UFO activity between Sedona, Arizona, and Phoenix. My scientific understanding of this is this. There are large orme or ormus mines that are between Sedona, Rimrock, and Phoenix. And orme is orbitally rearranged monatomic elements. And what and for those who've never heard of ormus, think of it as manna in the Bible or the Philosopher's Stone. What I believe is that these UFOs are using the monatomic mines and the energy fields that emit from them as fuel stations, if that makes sense. Passing over top of these monatomics give them the ability to get from one place to another. But one day I'm looking up, and this thing was 3.5 to 4 miles across. It circled from where I was in Rimrock, Arizona, to Cottonwood, back to Sedona in about a 30-minute period. It circled those three towns for about 3 loops, and witnessed by many, many, many people in the area. What got me about that one is at the time I had a 3,000 milliamp laser. So I thought, well, either I'm going to start a galactic war or I'm going to see one of the coolest things in the world. So I fired my laser at it. and the reflection that came off that thing looked like staring at a sun. I mean, this thing was bright. Oh. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. Now, here's what I kind of did. We were at a Ghost to Ghost episode at the Queen Mary with George Norrie, and I got him to open up the. I'm not changing the subject here, from ghost to UFO, but George was sitting there with Bill Bird, and he's the editor-in-chief of UFO magazine at the time, and we were engaged in a great conversation, and George says, well, Thunder, he takes people out. Tell him what you do for fun, Thunder. I go, well, I like to take people out and go UFO hunting. And I remember Bill jumping up out of his chair. He goes, we just shot a pilot. That's a wonderful name for our new show. So I think that's where UFO Hunters was created there, Bill. And they're like, well, how do you hunt UFOs? I'm curious. I said, well, it's real easy. You first go out to areas like Landers, California, where the Integratron is, or Sedona, or different areas. Well, you got Temecula up there by Anza, where all of these large vortex energy fields are located. And when you have a vortex field, you have different anomalies that are occurring there. And I said, what you do is you go out there with night vision goggles and high-powered lasers. So you look up into the sky where it's nice and dark, and then you pull out you can use your cell phone. You got sky maps, okay? Let's look at Google Sky Map. And yeah, no, there's nothing up there in the sky in that little section of space. Okay, perfect. All right, let's look through the night vision and let's shoot with the other eye, because I like the monocular night vision. Right. That way you can look in one eye and then hold the laser up to your like your other eye, so it'd be like holding a set of binoculars, and then fire that laser and then look through your night vision. It actually lights up the sky as if it's daytime, because the luminous of the laser is a ongoing light source that, when coupled with night vision, gives you an amazing view of the sky. And then what you're going to see, I call it bobber bait. Okay, anybody's out there fishing, you fire the laser up there, and then you're going to see a couple of ships crawling over to see what this laser is going on. Shut your laser off, and then the ships are like, uh-oh, better get out of here. That's probably thunder. He might even be recording us on this one. And some nights, I tell you, I was out in Atlantic City with the laser and the night vision up in the sky on the islands and the docks, and I would look up there, and this planet looks like a beehive. There was just ridiculous amounts of stuff flying everywhere, coming in and out of our atmosphere. I'm like, wow. Night vision goggles, you want to get version 2 or first generation digital 1 infrared. You can get them for around $300, and spend about $100 on a good high-powered laser. Those are the tricks to go out there and find these things. So yeah, altogether, I my gosh, probably 30 different. Look, you know they're not airplanes, and you know they're not helicopters, because of movement and the sound. Right. We got to look there. Right. Then you use your sky map to say, well, that's not Venus. There doesn't appear to be any swamp gas around me, and well, there's no weather balloons. So let's classify it as what it is. It's an anomaly. Yeah. The largest case that I have really been intrigued by, and of course I was not witness to, but happened in 1998 off of Catalina Island, and people from San Clemente to Malibu all witnessed over 90 plus UFOs flying out of the water near Catalina and leaving. USOs. Yeah, underwater. Yeah. And if one looks at the Google satellite there off of Malibu, where if you look out into the ocean and keep zooming in, come on, that doesn't look like the ocean floor. It's not that smooth. So some of the reports that there is a strange base off of off the coast of Malibu, Well, something's there because why is it photoshopped and smeared, so much?
Have you heard about the battle over LA in 42?
Yeah, well, that thing went on for about about an hour and a half, wasn't it? Shooting bullets over 30,000 rounds of ammo were fired in the sky. And we lost a third of our fleet. Well, how did that happen? Admiral turned around and came back, and we got our asses handed to us. And the report from Naval Intelligence was, yeah, man, we could not compete with these things flying out of the water and firing on us. So, I consider myself a ufologist.
There's a lot of activity going on in Antarctica with the Pope visiting and the Russian premier. I mean, something's going on in Antarctica.
There's some great cases that I've been looking at recently. Looks to me like there is a new HARP field that has been put down in Antarctica. We're watching lots of anomalies that are irregular patterns in frequencies that are ripping across the oceans. So that tells me those are high aerial resident research projects, also known as HARP, that are being fired off out there. It's no longer just up in Alaska. In fact, HARP number 2, I pulled a frequency off of, so if you're where you are there, Monty. Oh, geez. Are they coming for us, Monty?
Speaking of frequencies, what do you know about the number 432?
Okay, very good. 432 is in vortex-based mathematics, according to Marco Rodin. I said, let me, off the top of my head, it rings a bell, but let me look it up. I said, yes, here it is. 432. I named it Infinity. And he goes, interesting. And what about 528? I said, it's the Fibonacci's notes on a keyboard. What do you want me to say? He says, well, you might have just solved the most debated issue in the world right now. And I said, well, what's that? He said, frequency 528 which one is the love frequency? According to Dr. Len Horowitz, it's 528, and according to Marco Rodin and Jamie Boutros, it's 432.
Well, I'm told 432 is the number that comes out for like the square root of the pyramids. It's the frequency. I mean, it's all numbers boil down. All equations boil down to 432, is what I was told. I saw a whole documentary on it.
Yeah, well, it was probably Marco Rodin who was given that explanation. He is the grandfather of vortex. He wrote vortex-based mathematics. Here's what I've come to and concur. They're both wrong. Man, do I go out there and piss everybody off. Vortex-based mathematics has a anomaly point every 88 interval, and if done correctly, we have uncovered a new system code number frequency that, you ready? It's 529. Well, that's closer to 528, so does that mean? No, it doesn't mean anything. It simply means the color red and the color blue are two different frequencies, and they're both different colors. 528 and 529 are different colors. 432 and 529 are different colors. So think of it that way. So there's now, I've used now advanced vortex-based mathematics, along with applied quantum mechanics. And I've created what I call absolute magnetism. It's a balance in math and science that nobody in the history or nobody in the future of math and science will ever be able to debunk. There's also another strange, I'm going to bring this out because it's kind of a popular movement as of late. There is this debate, are we living on a round spinning ball hurling through space around the sun, or are we sitting stationary on a flat planet? Well, I remember sitting in grade school, and we had a globe sitting on our teacher's desk, and you know, when that teacher pulled down the map on the chalkboard, you know, Greenland and Africa were almost the same. Yet on the globe, Africa was much larger than Greenland. Well, in fact, Africa is 29 times bigger than Greenland. So, okay, well, that's a little strange, because I guess 3D and 2D give different perceptions. Well, here's the one that got me on it. I told you about my 3,000 millivolt laser. I'm proud to say, and I think this is, it was same week, so I don't know what to say about it. The same week I called out Stephen Hawkins, because I knew for sure I had caught him. Stephen passed away here on, of all days, March 14th. 3/14. 3.14 there, we lose the great Stephen Hawkins. And if Hawkins didn't like it, it was simply rubbish. Well, I challenged Hawkins in the fact that if you were to shoot, put a laser on a tripod, and you sit there at the beach, and you point that laser at the back of a boat, and send that boat out to the ocean, that eventually that laser would go, if you had a sailboat, for instance, that laser beam would now be up, you know, on the sail and eventually up into the crow's nest, for instance.
Well, I think it's a 2.4 mile horizon, isn't it?
It's well, the math on the curvature of the Earth is 8 inches squared per mile curvature. So let's send the boat out into the water, and eventually, you know, it's going to go over the curve, and that laser beam will no longer be on the back of the boat.
Right.
Well, I'm in Atlantic City on Brigantine Island. I'm standing there on my dock, and I got my tripod out, and I had my friend who was out in the ocean, gave me his coordinates. He was a fisherman, a commercial fisherman off Atlantic City, and gave me his coordinates. I said, all right. I said, can you see this laser? And I fired it off over the water, and he goes, holy cow, this is the brightest thing in the, yeah, it's right above the water line, no problem. I said, what am I hitting? He goes, my boat. I said, how far out in the water are you? 132 miles.
No way.
Well, I see now why they call it sea level. They don't call it sea curved. And I thought, someone brings me, literally I started laughing all off, so okay, so it's got to be round. It's got to be round. But wait, let's look at the Earth as a popcorn dish. Okay? And that popcorn dish, in the center of it, is the North Pole. Now, the edge of that popcorn bowl of Antarctica. And in 18 to 1921, there was a English steam vessel that circled Antarctica. Now, we're told that this planet at our equator is 28,500 miles, 28,300 miles, depending on which globe, I guess, we're pretending to look at. So we got 28,500 miles at our equator. Yet it took 3 years, and they traveled 62,000 nautical miles around the continent of Antarctica. Uh-oh. That's when I realized that the UN map is saying and laughing in our faces. You mean to tell me the UN map is how our planet really looks? Huh. Boy. Now, why would they go through such extremes to do all of this? And I think what it leads down to being is, if we can dumb down society and we can control what their thoughts and reality are, then we can control the masses. And this is why I think the Flat Earth movement is making such leaps and bounds. There's a wonderful documentary. It's by Eric DeBay, and it's called 200 Reasons Why the World is Flat. By the time I got to number 25, I hit pause, and I said, you know, am I going to endure this for another hour and a half? Because
you were convinced at 25.
I can't even give one reason why it's a round ball at this point.
What about the photographs from outer space, from the moon?
Oh, I was waiting for that one. Okay, here we go. Well, what about the satellites from space, Thunder?
Or just a photograph from the moon, when they were on the moon, supposedly, if they were on the moon.
Even the photograph from the moon. Okay, here we go. Well, there's video and there's pictures. I concur. I have looked at them both. And you know, Marty, I saw a 50-foot gorilla running up and down the streets of New York City. He was snagging white chicks left and right until he found the right one. I saw it on video. I know it's real. I think you see what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
King Kong looked just as real.
Well, Jurassic Park, boy, I tell you, the Jurassic Park movies are incredibly realistic.
Okay, I saw giant dinosaurs running around Hawaii. I know they're real. So, here's one thing that I do know about NASA. And my background, of course, when I went to college was satellite communication engineering. There's one thing that I do know about NASA. We've never seen, other than a CGI, computer generated graphic, from outer space. The ISS space station has never once taken the live camera that we're seeing live from the International Space Station. Great. Would you grab that camera for me and go over there to the window and point it down to Earth? Because we're spending...
What about the photographs?
Billions?
The photographs on the shuttle, them doing the spacewalk, and the Earth is in the background. Certainly round in those pictures. So you're saying
it's certainly round.
They could be fake too, you're saying?
The CGI, computer-generated imagery photographs that NASA has provided. Yes. NASA is a space agency.
Okay, so let's go back to the flat Earth. What about revolving around like the other planets? Are the other planets flat too? Are the planets round?
Good. Very, very good. So we have two individuals who believe they have found the South Pole, but both of them are in different locations. Okay. Well then, let's go to the other two locations. Oh no, you can't go over there. That's off limits by treaty from all the countries in the world. And both guys who found the South Pole, they went from the from the water's edge to the South Pole and back. Why didn't they travel on and cross? I'll tell you why. Because had they traveled on and crossed, it would match what what Admiral Byrd described when he was flying overhead excuse me, a land about the size of the United States, past the South Pole. Well, that tells me this is what we are seeing in our other planetary objects, that we are reflecting off of what we are seeing between our third dimension and our fourth density field that separates us from the blackness of space. The reflection of blue water on this is what we see during the daytime. Now, some people at this moment are saying this guy is completely off base. But wait, when you put it into a Mobius circle, a Mobius, if you're not familiar with the word, look up Mobius circle. And or remember when we were kids, we used to make those little chains at Christmas time, you know,
yep.
And then you pull them apart each day.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, think of it if you had made that chain, but you twisted it and then glued it together. So it kind of looked like that little spiral, or like a little 8 there, infinity sign in the middle. Yeah. That's your Mobius. Now, when you have that Mobius and you set that down on a table, you got a big curve on one side, and then it goes down to a flat on the other edge of the table, and then goes back up to the curve. Well, there we go. We put North Pole in the center of that circle. We have this curve that goes around. We call that Antarctica. And now that area that dips down and is really low, well, let's call that a drift that needs to be filled in. And all of a sudden,
wait a minute.
Look at that.
Okay, one more argument. We have 1 minute left, so let's try to wind it up. But I'm just saying, if the Earth is flat, someone at one point would have to have gone to the edge of it.
No, you come to the edge of Antarctica. Antarctica surrounds a pod of Earth. And if we traveled past Antarctica, we would find a pod, and we can call that one Mars. And we can find another pod, and we can call that Venus. And that these pods... Come on, Monty, we know that there's nuclear submarines, correct?
Yep.
Then you're going to tell me the military hasn't devised nuclear airplanes? They've flown way beyond the Antarctic Circle.
Okay, this is going to be continued. We've got 10 seconds left. I want to thank you for participating in my favorite subject, ufology. We're going to do it again, and we're going to have some more fun, and hopefully we'll get some callers and some questions.